They did not leave because things were bad. They left because something better arrived. And the most painful part is not the leaving. It is realizing that the whole time, you were never the destination. You were just where they waited. You were convenient. You were available. You were good enough for right now. And right now eventually ended. Take a breath, because what we are about to talk about today is one of the most painful things a person can discover about a relationship they gave everything to. Not that it ended, not that they were cruel, not even that they stopped loving you, but that somewhere beneath all of it, beneath the dinners and the promises and the ordinary Tuesday evenings, you were never truly the plan. You were the last option, the one they settled into, while they waited, while they healed, while they figured themselves out, while they became the version of themselves that was finally ready to fully love someone. And that someone was not you. This video is for the woman who is sitting with that realization right now, the one who keeps turning it over in her mind like a stone she cannot put down, the one who gave years, who was patient, who stayed through the uncertainty and the distance and the almost but not quite, who believed, because she had been given just enough reason to believe, that she was building something real. You were not imagining it. What you had was real. But what you were to them, that is what we need to talk about today. Let's start at the beginning, because you did not walk into this with your eyes closed. You were not naive. You were not desperate. You were not someone who ignored every sign. What happened was more layered than that. When it started, something felt real. There was warmth. There was attention. There was the specific electricity of being with someone who seemed to want you as much as you wanted them. And maybe there were signs that something was off. Maybe they were a little unavailable, a little hot and cold, a little hesitant in ways you could not quite name. But you are a generous person. You gave the benefit of the doubt. You told yourself, they have been hurt before. They need time. They are getting there. And so you waited. You invested. You became someone they could lean on. Someone safe. Someone consistent. Someone who showed up when no one else did. And here is the cruel irony. At the center of all of this, the very things that made you stay are the same thing that made it so easy for them to keep you there. Your patience was real. Your love was real. Your loyalty was real. And they used every single one of those things to hold a place in your life while keeping their options open, not because they were monsters, but because you were comfortable. And comfort is not the same as chosen. There is a pattern that plays out in these kinds of relationships. And once you see it, once it has a shape, you will recognize it immediately. It starts with what feels like potential, not a fully realized love, not a clear and confident choice, but potential, the sense that this person could be something, that what exists between you could become something more if you just give it enough time, enough patience, enough love. And so you give it. You invest in the potential rather than the reality. You love the person they could be almost as much as the person they are, and they let you, because having someone love your potential while you figure out your life is an extraordinarily comfortable place to be. You are not asking too much of them. You are asking them to simply exist while you do the heavy lifting of the relationship, and they oblige, not out of cruelty, out of ease, You made it easy. You made loving you require almost nothing from them. And somewhere in that dynamic, without either of you fully naming it, a hierarchy got established. You needed the relationship more than they did, and they knew it. And they let that imbalance become the foundation of everything you built together. Let's talk about what being the last option actually looks like from the inside, because it rarely looks like what you would expect. It does not look like being treated badly. It does not look like neglect or cruelty or obvious disrespect. It looks like almost fully present, almost fully committed, almost ready, almost there. It looks like someone who cares about you, but not quite enough to make you certain, not quite enough to make you feel fully chosen. It looks like the relationship that is always one conversation away from being what you need it to be. One breakthrough, one moment of clarity, one time they finally say, the thing you have been waiting to hear. And sometimes that moment comes. Sometimes they do say it. Sometimes there is a period where everything feels exactly right, where the distance closes, and they are warm and present, and you think, finally, this is it. This is what I knew it could be. And then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, the distance returns, and you are back to waiting, back to hoping, back to investing in the almost. This is the cycle that keeps you in it, long past the point your instincts were trying to tell you to leave, not because you are weak, but because the almost was just real enough to keep you hoping. And hope in the wrong relationship is a very dangerous thing. Here is something that is hard to say and harder to hear. Being the last option does not always mean they did not love you. Some of them did love you in the way they were capable of at the time, in the incomplete, half-present way. That was all they had to offer. But love, real love, is not just a feeling. It is a choice. It is the active daily decision to prioritize someone, to choose them, to make them certain. And what they gave you was the feeling without the choice, the warmth without the commitment, the intimacy without the security, the connection without the certainty. And you, because you are someone who loves fully, took the feeling and tried to build a life on it, not knowing that the foundation was missing, not knowing that what felt like love was really just the comfortable presence of someone who had not yet found what they were actually looking for. And when they found it, when the real choice arrived for them, they made it without hesitation, without looking back, without the uncertainty. They showed you every single day you were together. That is the part that breaks something deep in the chest. Not that they left, but how easily they left, how quickly the uncertainty disappeared when it was someone else, how the person who could never quite commit, who needed more time, more space, more patience, suddenly knew exactly what they wanted. The moment it was not you. That clarity, that devastating, effortless clarity, tells you everything you needed to know. Let's talk about what this does to a person, because being the last option does not just hurt. It reorganizes the way you see yourself. When you discover that you were not truly chosen, that you were held on to out of convenience rather than conviction, something shifts in the way you understand your own value. You start asking questions you were never supposed to have to ask. Was I ever really wanted? Did any of it mean what I thought it meant? Is there something wrong with me that made me the kind of person someone settles for rather than seeks out? And those questions, if you let them, will burrow deep. They will start showing up in places that have nothing to do with this relationship, at work, with friends, in the mirror, in the next relationship, before it has even had a chance to begin. The wound of being someone's last option is not just a heartbreak wound, it is an identity wound. It goes to the place inside you that holds the answer to the question, am I worthy of being truly chosen? And I need you to hear this very clearly. The answer to that question has nothing to do with what they chose. Nothing. Someone choosing poorly does not mean you were not worth choosing well. Someone failing to see your value does not mean your value was not there. Someone treating you as an option does not make you optional. It makes them someone who did not know what they had. And those are two entirely different things. Can we talk about the women who saw it coming but stayed anyway? Because there is a specific kind of shame that comes with knowing deep down before the end, sometimes before the middle, that something was not right, that you were not fully chosen, that the relationship had a ceiling and you were pressing against it every single day, and you stayed, not because you were foolish, but because leaving felt like giving up on something real, because the connection was real, even if the commitment was not, because you had already given so much that leaving felt like losing everything, because you believed that if you just loved them enough and well enough and long enough, they would finally choose you the way you deserve to be chosen. That is not foolishness. That is the logic of someone who has been taught by this relationship and perhaps by others before it that love is something you earn, that if you are patient enough, giving enough, good enough, eventually someone will decide you are worth choosing. But here is the truth that nobody tells you. When you are in the middle of all that trying, you cannot love someone into choosing you. You cannot give your way into being someone's priority. You cannot be patient enough, or understanding enough, or selfless enough to make someone want you in the way that you deserve. Either they see it, or they do not. Either you are the choice, or you are the placeholder. And no amount of love, however real, however enormous, can change which one you are to someone who has already decided. Let's talk about the moment it became clear. Because, for most women who have lived through this, there was a moment. It was not always loud. Sometimes it was a conversation. Sometimes it was a silence. Sometimes it was the way they looked at someone else when they thought you were not watching. Sometimes it was simply the ending itself, the speed of it, the ease of it, the way they moved on, as though what you had not cost them anything at all. Whatever your moment was, I want you to know something about it. That moment was not a failure. It was information, information that arrived later than you deserved, but not too late to change the direction of your life. Because that moment, as painful as it was also the moment the waiting ended, the moment you stopped investing in a future that was never going to come, the moment you were finally free to redirect everything you had been pouring into someone who was not holding it carefully, back to yourself. This is the part of the conversation that most people skip over, the part that comes after the realization, after the grief, after the anger, after the long nights and the unanswerable questions and the exhausting work of trying to make sense of something that does not fully make sense. The part where you decide what this means about your future. And here is what I want to offer you for that decision: being someone's last option one time does not make you anyone's last option forever. What it makes you is someone who now knows with absolute clarity what it feels like to be settled for, and that knowledge is a gift, a painful one, an expensive one you would never have chosen to receive, but a gift, because you now know in your body, not just in your head. The difference between being chosen and being kept, and you will never again accept being kept as a substitute for being chosen. You know what warmth without commitment feels like. You know what almost feels like. You know what patience without reciprocity feels like. And the moment any of those things appear in something new, you will recognize them, not from logic, from memory, from the part of you that lived through this and came out the other side, knowing your own worth with a precision you did not have before. Before I close, I want to speak directly to the woman who is in the middle of this right now, the one who has not yet reached the other side, who is still in the grief, still in the confusion, still asking why, still loving someone who chose someone else. I am not going to tell you to move on. I am not going to tell you that you will be fine, as though fine is something you can just decide to be. What I am going to tell you is this: what happened to you was not a reflection of your worth. It was a reflection of their capacity. There is a difference between a person who is not ready to love anyone fully and a person who is not worth being loved fully. You are not the latter. You were with the former. And the fact that they eventually found what they were looking for with someone else does not mean you were not worth finding. It means they were not the one who was meant to find you. The person who is meant for you will not need to be ready, will not need more time, will not leave you pressing against a ceiling, wondering when you will finally be enough. They will look at you and know, not eventually, from the beginning, with the kind of certainty that does not waver, does not need convincing, does not keep you waiting for a clarity that never quite arrives. That is what you deserve, not the almost, the absolute. You were never the last option. You were with someone whose vision was too limited to see what was right in front of them, and that is their loss. In the fullest, most complete sense of those words, their loss, not yours, never yours. You are going to build something on the other side of this that has no ceiling, a love that does not require you to shrink, to wait, to earn your place in someone else's life. You are going to be chosen fully, clearly, without hesitation, by someone who never makes you wonder. And when that happens, when you finally feel what it is to be someone's first choice, their only thought, their absolute yes, you will understand why everything before it had to end. You will not be grateful for the pain, but you will understand it, and you will know, in the quiet, certain way, that real things are known, that you are exactly where you were always meant to be. If this reached you today, if something in these words named what you have been carrying quietly and alone, you are not alone. Drop A in the comments. Share this with a woman who needs to hear it today. If this channel has been a place of comfort, subscribe. New videos every week. This is Mama Amelia, and I will see you next time.